All right. The AAMC is pleased to welcome you to navigating the 2027 AMCAS application cycle for applicants. We are recording and we will make the archive available afterwards. We will email you when we post it. We muted all participant audio. If you need help, please send us a message. This presentation includes time for Q&A. You may submit a question at any time by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. To access the resources, including the slides, please click on the Handouts tab where you logged in today. It is now my pleasure to welcome Candace Pantor.
Thanks, Dante, and welcome everyone. So, as Dante said, I'm Candace Pantor, and I am accompanied by my colleague Jenna Brewer, our digital communication and outreach specialist, and she'll be presenting alongside me today. We are also joined by some of our colleagues here at the AAMC that will help with answering your questions throughout the presentation. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for this 2027 AMCAS application preparation webinar. We're going to use our time today to get through the application process and also go over some resources to help you navigate the process. I also want to touch on we are expecting a large turnout for the webinar today. So we have many colleagues on the line to help answer your questions, but no, we may not be able to get to every question, but we will do our best, and we'll also do our best to give it some time at the end for some live questions. But with that being said, just take some time to go through the Q&A. If you see your question hasn't been answered yet, it may be likely that someone else asked a similar question that we were able to respond to. So just keep that in mind as we manage the Q&A. All right, so here's a look at what we're going to be covering today. We're going to jump into things and talk about the AMCAS program and how it works. Then we're going to talk about the application. We're going to go through the verification process and what you can expect after you submit your application. We're also going to cover getting your letters to AMCAS. And like I mentioned, we're going to wrap up with some resources to help you complete your application and have a successful submission. All right, so starting off, what is the AMCAS process, right? Like what goes into the application process? So AMCAS stands for the American Medical College Application Service, and it's the centralized application service for most MD programs in the country. AMCAS is typically known as the primary medical school application because you'll see as you go through the process, almost all of our medical schools require you to fill out a secondary application that's going to contain more school-specific questions. The AMCAS application process, there's 3 steps to it. So you're going to complete and submit an online application. Then our staff verifies that application, and we then send that verified application to the medical schools that you have designated within the application. We do verify applications as they are received, and verification occurs once we have received your AMCAS application, so your completed application, and all of your official transcripts. Know that the verification process is an actual line-by-line comparison of the coursework you enter in your application to the information that we get on your transcripts that are sent to us. Then during that time, we calculate your AMCAS GPA, and know the AMCAS GPA can differ slightly from what you see on your transcripts that your school provides you. And then know that verification takes around 6 to 8 weeks during our peak time, and that's from when you enter the verification queue. So then know once your application is verified, we deliver it electronically to the medical schools you have designated in your application. And then the same thing, your letters of evaluation are delivered on a rolling basis as well as we receive those. And no, we don't have to receive your letters for you to enter the verification queue. So know that your letters are not required for the verification process because we're only going through that coursework section when we do the verification process. So, for all things AMCAS, where you access the application, where you get tools and resources, you're going to head to aamc.org/AMCAS. Now, the 2026 application is still currently open, but when the 2027 application opens on May 5th, you'll be able to access the application right here from the home page. On our homepage, you'll also find our participating schools and deadlines page. And on that page, you can search by school name, state, and application deadlines to be able to get your list ready for where you want to apply. Also know that information for combined programs are found in the medical school admissions requirements. On our participating medical schools page, know that that's the information for all the regular MD programs that are using the AMCAS application. On our homepage, you'll also find the contact information for our AAMC Support Center. So they're available throughout the cycle for any questions you may have or anything that comes up as you are filling out your application. Also, if you're not familiar with our website, from our homepage, you can find information about the other services that we have at the AAMC, such as the MCAT exam, the preview exam, the fee assistance program. Those are all available on the homepage as well, and you can access them from the top home bar. All right, so jumping into important 2027 AMCAS dates. So updated resources for the cycle. So that's our applicant guide, our applicant workbook, our new guides for work and experiences. Those are all now available on the website, and they do become available in the beginning of May for each cycle. Now, important dates you want to remember, the cycle is going to open on Tuesday, May 5th, and that's the date that you can actually start your application. So you'll be able to open up an application for 2027 and start inputting your information at that time. Then you'll be able to begin submitting to us, and that's for you to start the verification process. That will start on May 28th. And then initial transmission, so that's when we will start sending those verified applications to our medical schools, will be on Friday, June 26th. So Friday, June 26th is going to be the first time when our medical schools will start to receive any verified applications, and know that your MCAT and preview scores, those will be released directly into your AMCAS application on the designated score release date. So no, there's no additional steps to get your scores added to your application. So, like I was mentioning, on June 26th is when our medical schools will start receiving our verified applications. And then on that day moving forward, it's on a rolling basis that we continuously send the verified applications to our medical schools. Know that official transcripts must be received by us within 14 calendar days of a medical school deadline, and you can see these deadlines within the medical school section of the application as well as on our website. And then know for the 2027 cycle, the early decision program deadline is going to be on August 3rd. And anyone that's planning to apply to early decision, know that the August 3rd deadline is for when we both need your completed application as well as all of your official transcripts must be received by that time to make the deadline for early decision. All right, so with AMCAS application participation, so for the 2027 cycle, we have about 155 programs participating in the AMCAS application. And like I was mentioning earlier, this includes all of the MD programs in the country except for our Texas Public School and Baylor College of Medicine. So those schools use the Texas Medical and Dental Schools application service for their MD programs. But know if you are applying to any combined MD PhD programs at the Texas schools, you will be coming through the AMCAS application for that. So if you're doing an MD PhD. Then no, almost all of our schools do participate in our AMCAS letter service, so you'll be sending your letters to us for that as well. And for the list of schools that do not participate, it's just a few. You can find that on our website. And a majority of our schools participate in our criminal background check program, and we will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. And then know the fees for the 2027 application have been finalized. So the processing fee will be $180, and that does include one medical school designation. And then each additional medical school designation will be $48. And we know that we see the average for applicants around 18 to 19 schools. So that'll give you an idea of what the average is, but know your list will be different, and costs will vary accordingly. And we will talk about the fee assistance program that helps cover some of the costs, for the medical school process a little bit later. All right, so once again, to get into the application, you're going to head to aamc.org/AMCAS. And when you're logging into the application, you're going to use your AAMC credentials. So if you don't have one, you'll create an account. If you already have one, you'll use the same one. So, like I was mentioning, if you do not have an AAMC account, you're going to create a new one to start your application. But no, you'll have an AAMC ID if you have interacted with us in any sort of way. So, if you registered for the MCAT, if you registered for the preview exam, if you participated in SHPEP, if you applied to fee assistance or purchased MSAR, you're going to use the same credentials to log into your AMCAS application. No, the system does check if you do have a duplicate account, so don't try to stress too much about it, but it is important to use the same credentials, especially if you have fee assistance. That's how your benefits are applied, so just keep that in mind. So the information that you enter when you register for your AAMC profile, it's actually going to populate on the first page that you see in the application. So any edits you need to make to that first page, you actually have to make in your AAMC profile. So that's your legal name, your preferred name, your citizenship information, your birth date, and your email address. So those sort of contact information. You want to make sure you put a best and accurate email address. That's how you're going to get all your application notifications throughout the cycle. And also, as well as any fee assistance benefits information, is going to go through to your email as well. So make sure it's one that you're checking, and that you use for all of your application information. Also note that if you update your AAMC profile for any other service or use at the AAMC, it is going to update that first section of your AMCAS application, and you just need to resubmit your AMCAS application if you want that information to go through. And no, resubmitting your application for anything throughout the process, it doesn't impact your timelines for verification or anything of that nature. But no, if you do make any updates to your profile, your AAMC profile, you do have to resubmit your application for those changes to take in effect. All right, so how does the application work in the system? So like I mentioned earlier, the 2026 application is still open. However, you will be able to access and start your 2027 application on May 5th. And for when you're in there, just remember you are filling out the application that corresponds to when you plan to start medical school. So I'm assuming many of you here on the call today plan to start in the summer/fall of 2027. So you're going to be starting the 2027 application, and just keep that in mind. If you're not applying this cycle, any cycle that you're applying, you complete the application for when you anticipate starting medical school. Because you will often see multiple cycles open at the same time. Okay, so once you sign into the application, you are going to be at the main menu of the AMCAS application. So this page is always going to be a click away from anywhere in the application, and you can always return to it by hitting the main menu link at the top. You'll see the sections of the application on the right-hand side, and as you go through the application, the sections automatically display complete or incomplete based on whether or not you have all of the required fields completed in that section. You'll also see action buttons here on this part of the main menu. This is where you can manage your transcript request forms, manage your letter requests forms, and also print your application to do a review of it. You can all do it from this section of the application. Also, touching on how you can check on the status of your application. So it's always available at the upper right-hand corner of your application. If you click on the View Application Status History link located on the lower right-hand side, you'll be able to see the specific definitions and when your status is changed throughout your application cycle as well. So if you ever are wondering what your status is, that's also available on the main menu page as well. On the lower left portion of the main menu page, you'll be able to find quick links for resources that will help you throughout your cycle. So you'll have access to the tools and tutorials page, the fee assistance program, also to be able to connect with us on social media. Those links are all available on the left-hand side. Then on the lower right-hand side, you'll be able to view the status of any of your supporting documents for your application. So those are your letters of evaluations and your transcripts, and you'll see whether or not those are received in that section of the application. It'll be marked as received or not received. Okay, so that's the main menu. Now let's get into the meat of the application. So we're going to go through each of the 9 sections, and I recommend you pull up our applicant workbook so you can see as we go through the different sections. We're going to talk through what you're inputting in each of those sections and also highlight some tips and any mistakes you want to try to avoid when you're completing your different sections. So just before we jump into the individual sections, I just want to touch on for any reapplicants what might be different this cycle. So first, we introduced a social justice and advocacy experience type a few years ago, and that's going to be updated to community health and advocacy this cycle. And we have posted a guidance document for you on our website to give you a little bit of background about the experience type and whether or not it's something that's applicable to you. So that is available on our tools and tutorials page. Also, just for any reapplicants, you might just notice there's just a little bit of a change of the medical school section and how you edit and enter your school selections, update your program types. It's just been updated for easier look and feel and better user experience. So minor changes for anyone that's already familiar with the application. Okay, so the first section of the application is called identifying information. And like I was mentioning earlier, many portions of this section is actually pre-populated with the information in your AAMC profile. So again, that's your legal name, your preferred name, your birth and gender information. So if you do want to update any of that information, you're going to do it in your AAMC profile. We do recommend in this section that you do add any school ID numbers that can help us match your transcripts to your application. And the box that we have highlighted on this slide, that's always going to be available for you on the side as you fill out your application, and it'll turn into a check mark. The little circles will turn into a check mark as you complete all the required sections in that portion of the application. And no, throughout the application, there is a red asterisk that represents what is required and what you must complete within the application. Okay, so in the school's attendance section is where you're going to enter your high school information and any information about any post-secondary institutions that you may have enrolled, and that's for at least one course, even if you transferred the credits or if no credits were earned. So anywhere you've ever attended, you're going to put in your school's attendance section. You're also going to answer questions about previous matriculation at any medical school and whether you were subjected to any institutional actions in this section as well. In the school's attendance section is where you will be able to generate your transcript exceptions request if you don't think a transcript's required. So know that's very rare, but this is where you'll do it. This is also the section where you're going to generate your transcript request forms. So those are the forms you're going to provide to your registrar's office for them to send in their transcripts to us so that we can connect it to your application. I also just want to touch on if you did a study abroad program, we do have more information about entering study abroad information and foreign coursework in the AMCAS applicant guide. So just spend a little bit of time with that section. And we also have a video tutorial on our tools and tutorials page about entering study abroad coursework as well. So those resources are available for anyone that has done study abroad. All right, so the next section that you're going to encounter is the biographic information section. And this section is relatively straightforward. You can see the requirements here on the screen. So you're going to enter your address information, your citizenship information, and some other general background information about yourself. I do want to touch on in the biographic information section is where you'll find the other impactful experiences question. So this question was previously called the self-reported disadvantage question, and it has been updated to the other impactful experiences question. And this question is just designed to give you an opportunity to provide additional context about any challenges you may have experienced in your life on your way to becoming a doctor. So know that it's intended for any applicant who may have faced any impactful experiences. So whether you had to overcome something from your family background, a financial background, a community setting, education, religion, or any other life experiences, this question is giving you the opportunity to include that in your application. And there is help text that appears that lets you know whether or not you should answer yes to the question. And if you do decide to answer yes, you're allowed a little bit over 1,300 characters to reflect on the experience. And know that this in question is completely optional. Medical schools are not expecting you to answer yes. It is up to you to decide if you have something that was an impactful experience in your life that you want to share with the medical schools that is a part of your journey to becoming a physician. All right, so the fourth section is the coursework section. And we're going to spend a little bit of time here because this typically is the section that takes the most time to complete. As on average, applicants enter about 52 courses, usually from 2 to 3 schools. And we do have links to our video tutorials that show more information about entering different types of coursework that you can access on this page as well. And no, take your time when you're completing your coursework section because if you leave out any grades or any information, this is where we see the biggest reason why there may be any delays in processing your application. All right, so if you can, we do recommend using an official transcript when you complete this section. And no, you must enter your coursework and corresponding grade information for any course you have taken at any U.S. territorial, or Canadian post-secondary institution, and that's regardless of whether you earned credit. So it includes, but it's not limited to whether you withdrew from a class, it's a repeat, it's an incomplete, and even your future coursework. So even if a course was removed from your transcript or your GPA as a result of academic bankruptcy, forgiveness, or similar institutional policies, you must also include those on the AMCAS application. Also know when you are entering your coursework, you will enter a course classification, and that's based entirely on the primary content of the course. So we do provide a course classification guide to help you with classifying your courses as you put them in. And know when we review your application, we do convert most standard undergraduate transcript grades to AMCAS grades based on conversion information that's provided by your schools. And the AMCAS GPA that I mentioned earlier, that provides medical schools with a standard way to compare each applicant's background. So we compute a BCPM GPA, so that's comprised of biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics courses, and then we also compute in all other GPA. And the course classifications are what's used when calculating those GPAs. All right, so now I just want to touch on some tips to remember when you're entering your coursework. Don't forget to include plus or minus grades as they appear on your transcript. Remember that the AMCAS academic year begins with the summer term, so you may see your courses rearrange in your application from how you entered them, but don't worry about that. Know that we start off with the summer term within the AMCAS application. Make sure you include all your classes, so don't forget any physical education class, like if you took a swimming class, a dance class, make sure it's included as long as it's on your transcript. Don't forget to have your course descriptions available when you're entering them to help you with that course classification. For our re-applicants, if you applied in a previous year, make sure you update your final grades, which you may not have entered in the previous year. And finally, don't forget to include any repeat courses. So you have to include each attempt of a course within the AMCAS application. And then a few things you just want to avoid. Like I mentioned, coursework problems are the biggest issues to cause any delays for your application. So just keep in mind, do not enter numeric grades or quality points if the grade field in your transcript shows a letter grade. So make sure you're putting your information exactly as you see it on your transcript in the AMCAS application. Be mindful how you enter your course number and your course name. So, for example, if your transcript says Bio 101, Intro to Biology, your course name is Intro to Biology and your course number is Bio 101. You actually don't need to enter any special symbols or characters when entering your coursework. So that's the one part where you're going to deviate from your transcript. If your transcript does have special characters, you'll leave those out. But outside of that, you want to make sure it looks exactly how you see it on your transcript. And then again, just be mindful of how you're entering your summer coursework. So if you took a summer class in 2024, it's going to go in the 2024-2025 academic year in the AMCAS application. A few more things to remember. Know that physics classes are classified as physics courses in the AMCAS application, and as part of your BCPM GPA, there's a natural physical science course classification, but that's not applicable for physics. You're going to categorize it as physics. Then know if any course had both a lecture and lab component, don't list the grades side by side. You're going to enter it as two separate entries in your application. So you're going to put the grade for your lecture and your grade for your lab in two separate entries. And then again, don't forget to add any repeat courses or withdrawals. It can lead to delays in processing your application. Also, if you have advanced placement credit on your transcript, don't forget to enter those into your application as well. And finally, if you do get your application returned to you for missing any coursework, make sure you put all your coursework back in your application because you don't want to cause any more delays for yourself. So make sure you enter all your missing coursework when you resubmit to us. All right, so the next big section is going to be the work and activity section. And this is where you're given the opportunity to highlight your work experience, your extracurricular activities, your awards, honors, or publications that you want to bring to the attention of the medical schools to which you're applying. So you can enter a max of 15 experiences, and you're also able to enter separate date ranges for repeat activities. So if you had a summer job that you held multiple summers in a row, you're able to enter that into the application as well. Then also know all entries must include a contact person and either an email or a phone number so the medical schools can verify this information if desired. And you are provided 700 characters for an experience description. You're also allowed to indicate three experiences as your most meaningful. So when you designate an experience as your most meaningful, you're given an additional 1,300, a little bit more than 1,300, 1,325 characters to explain why that's your most meaningful. Now, we get a lot of questions about work and activity sections. So no, it's going to appear in your application in chronological order, but our medical schools can sort through your entries in different ways and how they are going to review your application. But when you see it in your application, it's going to be in chronological order. Then, when you're thinking about writing your response to maybe your most meaningful experiences, some things to think about is how maybe transformative the experience was for you, the impact you made while engaging in the activity, and maybe even any personal growth you experienced from participation in the activity as well. Then also know you can indicate anticipated hours for experiences in your application. So for any anticipated hours, you're going to put the start date is going to be the current month and year or later that you're entering the experience. And then the latest date that you can select will be August of 2027 for our current application cycle for the 2027 cycle that's opening. And we do have a work and experience guide available on our website for entering experiences as well. So just some things to think about as you work through your work and activities section. So keep the frame of mind when you're entering your activities that you're applying to medical school, right? So think about how the experiences that you're putting into your application, how does it impact your future in the profession of medicine, and how does it demonstrate your dedication to this future career? Also, think about, and we'll talk a little bit more about the pre-med competencies. So, think about which competencies you gained experience in and how you developed or demonstrated these competencies through the experience. So, keep in mind that the medical schools will not expect any one experience to relate to all the different competencies, but you will likely demonstrate numerous competencies through several different experiences. Also know that your experiences, your work and activities is your opportunity to demonstrate to the medical schools like why you want to be a doctor, right? So what did you do outside of getting good grades and studying really hard to show that you're dedicated to this future career of becoming a physician, right? So how else did you spend your time while also demonstrating that you're interested in becoming a physician? You get 15 experiences to enter, but medical schools care about the quality rather than the quantity. So think about entering the most important and significant experiences in this section, and maybe there may be things that's not the best to put into it. Don't just try to fill up 15 experiences. Make sure that they're impactful. Also, include clinical and non-clinical activities, especially if you're able to demonstrate those competencies. So think about times when you may have led a project or people where you were able to show leadership, teamwork, and working with, various populations and understanding others. So just something to think about as you're selecting them. And also know that some schools may require certain types of experiences. So you want to just get familiar with that. They'll have it on their website if that is something that they are requiring, but just another portion for you to keep in mind. All right, so the next section that you'll come across is the letters of evaluation section. And this is where you're going to enter your type of letter that's going to be sent on your behalf. So whether it's a committee letter, a letter packet, or an individual letter. And no, each letter type counts as one letter entry, and that's regardless of how many letters may be included in a letter packet. The information that you enter is going to help generate that letter request form. And that form is what you're going to email directly to your letter authors, and they will use that to send in your letter to the AMCAS application on your behalf. So it'll go straight through the application. You put in their contact information. The application will send that letter request form to your letter authors, and they use that email confirmation to submit your letter on your behalf. Just a couple things to know about your letters of evaluation. You can enter up to 10 letter entries. And that allows you to tailor or target your letters to different schools if you desire. But know that most applicants typically have 2 to 3 letters in their application, and you can find out more information about what types of letters medical schools require in the medical school admissions requirements database. Then also know letter packets cannot be broken up once they are received. So if you do want those separate letters to be sent to the medical schools, you need to add them as separate letter entries in the application. But if we receive it as one packet, it will stay as one packet in your application. Know that we accept letters through the AAMC letter writer portal as well as Interfolio. And like I mentioned earlier, we do not need your letters of evaluation to verify your application, so you can submit them before they are received, and then they will be sent to the schools on a rolling basis as we receive them. All right, so the next section is the medical school section, and this is where you're actually going to be designating those medical schools that you want your application to be sent to. In this section, you can find schools by state, deadline date, or program type. You'll also see more information about whether or not they are participating in our AMCAS letters, as well as if they are participating in the facilitated background check. You'll see that all in this section of the application. There's also links to schools' MSAR profiles. So take a look when you're adding a school. Make sure it's a school you want to go to. It aligns with what you want. It's a good mission fit. So spend some time in the MSAR profile of the schools before you designate it in your application. You're going to see deadline dates in this section as well. So know if the program deadline has passed, you won't be able to designate the school within your application. In this section is also where you're going to indicate the type of program you're applying to. So that's going to be the regular MD program, early decision, or combined MD PhD programs. And you want to be mindful of the different deadlines again, and transcript deadlines, because again, once a deadline has passed, you're not able to add it in your application. All right, so now at this point, I'm going to pass things over to Jenna. She's going to take us through the rest of the sections of the application as well as those resources to guide you through the application process.
Awesome. Thank you, Candace. So now we're going to move on to the essay section. So all applicants must complete the personal comments essay section of the application. You are provided with 5,300 characters, which is a little over 1 page, to reflect on why you wish to attend medical school. Things to think about including in this statement are available by clicking the What information should I consider including and my personal comments link on this page. Some questions you may want to consider while drafting this essay are: why have you selected the field of medicine? What motivates you to learn more about medicine? And what do you want medical schools to know about you that hasn't been disclosed in another section of the application? And in addition, you may wish to include information such as special hardships, challenges, obstacles that may have influenced your educational pursuits. And this is also a section where you can provide commentary on significant fluctuations in your academic record, which are not explained elsewhere in your application. And we recommend that you type directly into this field or use a basic text editing program like Notepad that does not contain formatting. And we also recommend that the applicants very carefully proofread their essay before submitting. There is no spell checker in the AMCAS application, and no changes will be permitted to this section after you have submitted your application. A good way to do this is by printing the application and proofreading. Applicants to MD, PhD programs are required to complete 2 additional essays, one on their motivations for pursuing MD, PhD programs, and one detailing their research experiences. We have a field called significant research hours for MD, PhD applicants where you provide total hours of prior full-time research experience. So here are some things to think about when you sit down to write your essay. Take some time to reflect on your life and goals. By the end of reading your statement, the reader should understand why you want to be a doctor. Admissions officers want to learn something about you that you can't find in other parts of the application. They should get an idea of the person in the personal statement. And when you consider what to write, think about the series of events in your life that have led up to the point where you're applying to medical school. How did you get here? What set you on the path toward medical school? And what kept you coming back even at times when it was challenging? So here are some essay writing quick tips. Again, proofread your essay, make sure you print it out, and check for spelling errors. We also recommend reading it backwards. And what this means is making sure that your essay flows, does the beginning connect to the end? So making sure that makes sense, and also read it out loud. And have mentors and loved ones review it too. And make sure that it's your statement. Though others might have suggestions, which is great, the final document is yours and must reflect your reasons for pursuing medicine. So here are some essay do's and don'ts. Do make sure your statement addresses your reasons for wanting to pursue medicine. Again, have a lot of people review it: friends, colleagues, mentors, letter writers. Be mindful that all medical schools will receive the same AMCAS application. Don't write about a specific medical school. And check and recheck for grammatical and spelling issues. Your application is your first impression. For the don'ts, don't speak in generalities. Don't be informal. Don't include or restate everything in your activity section in your personal statement. And don't make your statement too personal. You should be able to talk about the personal statement contents in an interview. So now we're going to move on to the standardized test section. AMCAS scores are automatically released to your AMCAS application unless the score is voided. You do not have to request that this information be added to the application or sent to medical schools directly if the schools participate in the AMCAS application. What this means is that your AMCAS score is tied to your AMC ID, which is also tied to your application, which is how it knows to put it into your application when your score is released. Applicants that would like AMCAS scores sent to non-AMCAS schools or an application service, or would like to send scores from an exam prior to 2002, should use the AMCAS score reporting system to forward their scores to their desired location. The AMCAS application can be submitted with or without AMCAS scores. Therefore, you can submit your application before your AMCAS scores are available. Once the scores are available, they will be automatically forwarded to your designated medical schools. And you should indicate any future testing date information in the standardized test section of the application. This is particularly important if you plan to retake the exam. This way, medical schools understand they will be receiving applications without AMCAS scores. They will be flexible and will want to know when to expect your score. If you do not indicate when you are taking the MCAT exam, or if you're planning to take it again, schools may make an admissions decision on incomplete information. Intended test dates are not binding, so if you do want to take the exam again, you can change this information in the AMCAS application, even if the application has already been submitted. And to see the most up-to-date information on MCAT testing, you can visit amc.org/MCAT as seen on the screen. All previous scores from 2020 to the present will automatically be released to the AMCAS application and will be included in all future AMCAS applications. Schools that you have designated in your AMCAS application who require or recommend previous scores will be able to access your previous scores from your AMCAS application. Just like the MCAT exam, you will be able to indicate any future preview testing date information in the standardized test section of the application. The list of preview participating schools is available on our website and will be updated throughout April. So now let's talk a little bit more about the preview exam. Medical students and doctors must understand far more than chemistry and human anatomy to provide better care for patients. The AMC designed the preview exam to look beyond academic metrics to assess core personal skills such as resilience, service orientation, ethics, and teamwork. When combined with other parts of the admissions process, preview scores provide medical school staff with a more complete view of an applicant. The preview exam is designed to measure examinees' understanding of effective professional behaviors across various AMC's core competencies for entry medical students, which we'll get into in a little bit. The preview score is an evaluation for these competencies. It is a standardized exam that presents a series of hypothetical scenarios students may encounter in medical school, and then it asks the examinee to evaluate the effectiveness of a series of behavioral responses to each scenario. And you can learn more at amc.org/preview. So after completing all the sections of the application, you are ready to submit. In order to submit, you are required to acknowledge and agree with the certification statements. At this point, you will also pay the AMCAS flat processing fee of $180, which includes one medical school designation, and pay an additional fee of $48 for each additional medical school designation. We will be discussing the AMC Fee Assistance Program in a bit, which aims to help those who have a need for financial assistance when applying to medical school. As we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, applications are placed in a queue as soon as AMCAS receives your submitted electronic application and all of your required official transcripts. When requesting transcripts from a registrar, you should use the official transcript request form that is generated from within the AMCAS application. The form helps us match transcripts accurately. AMCAS accepts electronic PDF e-transcripts from approved senders and via mail. To know where you are in the verification queue, daily processing updates are posted on the AMCAS homepage. So this graph depicts the average number of business days our verification team takes to process applications at our peak submission times for the 2022 through 2026 cycles. The peak season of the application cycle is June through September, which is when there's an increase of application intake and processing times. However, because verification times do depend heavily on the number of applications we get and when they are submitted, these charts are only for reference and are not a prediction of processing times for the 2027 application cycle. So now that we've gone over the AMCAS application, I'd like to take some time to review other key components of the AMCAS process and services. The AMC recommends criminal background checks on all accepted applicants to assist medical schools in evaluating the ability of an individual to attain appropriate licensing in the future and to ensure trust in the profession of medicine. The majority of our participating schools also participate in this service. For specific information about school participation in the AMC facilitated criminal background check process, you can visit the Schools and Deadlines section of our website. Even if a school does not participate in the background checks facilitated by the AMC, they may require you to go through a separate background check process. Criminal background checks are performed on students after being accepted into an early decision program, then for students accepted under regular decision after January 1. You will receive an email notification from our vendor, Certified Screening Inc., initiating the background check, and you will have 10 calendar days to review the report for irregularities. After that time period, it will automatically be sent to the medical schools, and there's no additional charge to you for this service. The application and acceptance protocols for applicants are recommendations to help ensure that all MD and MD PhD applicants receive timely notification about the outcome of their AMCAS application. These guidelines are not intended to supersede the policies, timelines, or discretion of individual schools or programs. You are expected to become familiar with the procedures and requirements of each school to which you apply. So for tools to help you through the application process, you can visit amc.org/AMCAS as seen on the screen. And for resources about the entire application journey and the actual AMCAS application. Begin looking through the AMCAS applicant guide, the workbook that we talked about earlier, and watch video tutorials by going through the AMCAS resources section of the website to prepare for when the application opens in May. And a nice tip that we have about the workbook is even though the application is open till beginning of May, you can go ahead and fill this out. So when it does open, you're already ready to transfer your information from the workbook into the application. So you can start getting your questions answered now before the application opens. So keep that in mind and look at that on our website. And again, for tips and resources throughout the cycle, you can follow us on X, and our account is @AMCASinfo, and check out our AMCAS tools and tutorials page for videos on the application process. So next, we're going to discuss the AMCAS letter service, which includes the AMC letter writer portal and letter guidelines. And we will also talk about additional resources to wrap up. This diagram maps out the letters of evaluation process and associated relationships. You should provide your letter writers with the letter request form generated from within the application, as we mentioned earlier. And this will provide you with your AMC ID number and the letter ID number, which they will need to submit a letter on your behalf. Letters can be sent to AMCAS via the AMC letter writer portal or Interfolio. Medical schools will receive letters for process applicants on a rolling basis, and they are never visible to the applicants. Once you submit your application, a letter cannot be removed from your file. So this graph details our total letter receipts for the 2021 cycle to the 2025 application cycle. And as you can see, letter submission trends increase significantly from May to July and start to decrease at the end of the summer into the fall. We accept letters on a rolling basis. Letters are not required to be received by AMCAS before submission. We only need the official transcript and completed application submitted to AMCAS in order for us to process the application. And again, letters do not need to be submitted for verification, as well as your MCAT and previous scores, which will automatically load into your application when the scores release. So letters of evaluation are also accepted through the AMC letter writer portal in addition to Interfolio. The AMC letter writer portal offers streamlined submission processes, email-based access, and improved tracking features. So for you, you'll want to remind your letter authors to use the link in the email for a streamlined letter uploading process. And if you need help explaining to your letter writer how to craft a strong letter, or if they need assistance constructing it, you can ask them to go to amc.org/advisors. They will be able to access the guidelines for writing a letter of evaluation for a medical school applicant as seen on the screen. So now I'm going to talk about the fee assistance program. The many costs associated with applying to medical school may discourage some students from applying. The AMC believes that these costs should not be a barrier to anyone who aspires to become a doctor. One resource to help offset some of the application costs is the AMC Fee Assistance Program. The Fee Assistance Program provides financial assistance to individuals who, without this aid, would find it very difficult, if not impossible, to take the MCAT, apply to medical schools that use the AMCAS application, and fulfill other application obligations. So the AMC offers the Fee Assistance Program for students with financial need. And if an applicant is approved for Fee Assistance Program in 2026, they will receive the following benefits: reduced MCAT registration fees, the official guide to the MCAT exam and bundle of official MCAT practice products, complimentary access to the medical school admission requirements online database, a waiver for all AMCAS fees for one application submission with up to 20 medical school designations. And it is important to note that many medical schools will waive their secondary application fees for those who qualify for our fee assistance program, as well as a waiver for the AMC preview professional writers exam registration fees and the new preview score practice exam. Additionally, approval follows an applicant to medical school, where you will receive a 60% fee discount on up to 50 ARIS applications when applying for residency. I also want to mention that if an applicant is awarded fee assistance and they're applying for accommodations for the MCAT, they have access to some benefits towards an updated psychoeducational or medical evaluation if it is required to support your MCAT accommodations application. Students should complete the AMC Fee Assistance Program application well in advance of their intended MCAT testing date or AMCAT submission to be eligible for all of the benefits. Fee Assistance Program awards are not retroactive, and are valid for up to 2 calendar years. However, an individual can be awarded fee assistance up to 5 times. So how do you become eligible for the fee assistance program? Someone is eligible if prior to completing the application, they have a US-based home address. Fee assistance program award approval is tied directly to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services poverty level guidelines. In 2026, applicants will be granted fee assistance benefits if each household reported on their application has a 2025 total family income that is 400% or less than the 2025 national poverty level for that family size. Parental financial information and supporting tax documentation are required for applicants under the age of 26. Parental information is viewed independently from applicant data, but must also fall within eligibility guidelines. And finally, an applicant must be preparing to apply to medical school. Therefore, they are not currently accepted or enrolled at any medical school, which includes USMD, DO, or international medical schools. They're not a graduate from any medical school, again, including USMD, DO, or international schools. And they're not preparing to apply to residency. So here's the income eligibility for the 2026 AMC Fee Assistance Program. Again, in 2026, you will be granted fee assistance benefits if each household reported on your application has a 2025 total family income that is 400% or less than the 2025 national poverty level for that family size. These figures are seen here in this table. Parental information is viewed independently from applicant data, but must also fall within the eligibility guidelines. So you can visit our website, amc.org/fee assistance, to start an application and learn more about program benefits. And I strongly encourage you to read the 2026 AMC Fee Assistance Program Essentials. This guide will detail how to complete the application process. So if you need assistance completing the fee assistance program application, you can contact our AMC Support Center. They're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can call 202-828-0600. Or you can email them using the email address as you see on the screen. So wrapping up with these last few resources, in addition to your GPA and test scores, a lot of medical schools are progressing to competency-based admissions. This means that schools evaluate you based on your experiences, goals, and proficiency in the 17 pre-med competencies listed here that are to demonstrate your preparedness for medical school. These pre-med competencies reflect expectations for medical students. Many applicants wonder what is a competency and how do you demonstrate it? And after hearing those questions from applicants and pre-health advisors, we created Anatomy of an Applicant. It defines these pre-med competencies that medical schools look for in applicants and gives you tools and examples for how to develop competencies. And on the next slide, you'll learn more about the Anatomy of an Applicant resources. So to show how successful applicants have demonstrated these competencies, we interviewed real medical students, their pre-health advisors, and the admissions officers who accepted them. On the Anatomy of an Applicant website, you're able to read stories from medical students and how they demonstrated these competencies during their path to medicine and in their medical school applications. You'll also get perspectives from their pre-health advisors and the admissions officers who accepted them. You'll also find information about the parts of an application, and you can complete a workbook with self-assessment worksheets, which help you reflect on each competency area and what experiences have given you an opportunity to learn and develop in the competency. So to access, simply navigate to amc.org/competencies. So every medical school is different, and on average, applicants will apply to about 19 medical schools. But with so many different programs to choose from, how do you determine where to apply? So keep in mind that just like every applicant is different and has their own story and experiences, each medical school is different and has its own mission and culture. You can view each med school's mission statement and a ton of other information for free from the AMC's Medical School Admission Requirements online database, which describes the medical school's teaching philosophy, core values, and what they're looking for in their applicants. It can be helpful to think about what you're looking for in terms of your own goals and values. Do they align with the medical schools? The Medical School Admission Requirements resources can help you prepare for the application process and choose where to apply. So when you get to the point where you're making decisions about where to apply, it can be tempting to focus on academic requirements and medical school statistics. But remember, this is where you will spend at least 4 years, and there are a lot of factors to consider. With the MSTAR tool, you can search for schools by location, median MCAT score, or GPA, and then review school-specific data, save and rank favorites, save notes on each school, and review pre-medical coursework. Subscribers can view complete school data, including things like student data, volunteer experiences, and median MCAT scores. You can even compare medical schools side by side, and you can send your save and rank favorites list to your pre-health advisor as well. So if you need assistance with your AMCAS application, please contact our AMC Support Center. They're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can call 202-828-0600 or complete our contact form. You can find the form on the right rail of the AMCAS homepage or by searching AMCAS Contact Us on the AMC website. And please follow us on X. Our account is at AMCAS Info to get application tips and reminders throughout the cycle. So we'd now like to begin the question and answer portion of this presentation. Please submit your questions by typing into the Q&A box, and remember to fill out the webinar evaluation before you leave. Thank you for joining us for this presentation about the 2027 AMCAS application cycle, and good luck.
Thanks, Jenna. And I know we're right on time, so I just want to touch on some common questions I was seeing. So one, the webinar recording will be available. It will be on our website, and we will send out an email when it's available, along with the slides and the resources that we have available today. So that's the applicant workbook, the applicant guide, and the other resources we shared in the handouts tab as well. That would be available for you. Also, I see we have a lot of questions around coursework. We will be having a coursework and transcript webinar. So if we are unable to get to your questions today, please attend our coursework and transcript webinar. It is April 21st at 1:30, and the link to register for that is in the chat. And again, if you're not able to attend, please still register and you will be able to receive the recording for that as well. And then finally, I just want to touch on for our opening on May 5th for the 2027 application. Again, that's going to be for anyone who hopes to matriculate to medical school next year in the summer, fall of 2027. And the application again becomes available on May 5th at 9:30. You can get in there and start filling out your application. So again, we'll send the recording and all of the resources out to you. Please take the couple of minutes to scan through the Q&A to see if there's any final information you can get from there. And thank you for joining us so much. I will pass it over to Dante to close us out.
All right, thank you. Please give us your feedback on today's presentation by filling out the evaluation that will pop up on your screen as soon as we end. We recorded this session and we will email you when we post the archive. On behalf of the AAMC, have a wonderful day.